Okay, so I've shared images of just the heads of the birds, not the whole bird,
Mhm.
because I thought if, since we've not done this in this class before, we should try to focus on learning little bits and pieces of the different birds. So while we may not recognize birds by their facial expressions or face, each bird is quite distinct. And very often when we are drawing stuff, we mistake a few things because of just maybe drawing the line too long or too short or in the wrong direction. And suddenly one bird looks like a completely different bird. So,
Okay.
from moving from completely abstract sketches towards something more specific like portraiture, it's good to do something like birds or animals, and that way you can get a sense of just how accurate your lines are becoming, but you're not um, you're not burdened by making the illustration of a person's face,
Mhm.
because that can sometimes be so harrowing that you just want to chuck your book away and never look at it again. So we're going to
True.
approach it very slowly.
Okay.
I'll share the screen with you and I'll show you what we're going to do. So the first part and a large part is going to be just making pencil sketches today. So we
Okay.
may not even use color at all, or we might just use some loose color techniques because I don't want to put too much, too many things in one day. So as we
Okay.
go from this class to next week's class, then we will start making more detailed illustrations of the animals. And the technique between the two would be more or less the same. So you should be able to
Okay.
apply that.
Mhm.
So we have a rooster, we have an owl, a nice peacock, and a falcon. So we are going to make sketches of these in two different ways. One is just making loose lines and proportions, and the other one is where I'm going to show you how, at least for this one, the falcon, how we can make a block illustration and then start filling in the details. So there's a slight difference between the two.
Okay.
I'll demonstrate this first and then you can begin. And take your time making the pencil sketches. Don't rush through it. So I
Okay.
want us to make all four illustrations.
Okay.
It's not just one. And the reason I want all four is because in 90 minutes, I don't want you to focus on just one because then you'll spend most time erasing and second guessing yourself. So we're going to divide our time and give no more than about 15 minutes per sketch of
Okay.
each bird. And then there will be some gaps in between till we maybe do some coloring towards the end or something like that. Okay.
Okay.
So just bear with me. I'm going to show you the two techniques first, and
Okay.
then you can begin. So first, the rooster.
Okay.
We have, there is a certain way of proportioning in the rooster's face also. But before we get into that proportion, I want you to make this loose illustration. So we are going to make all our birds either like this, or you can make them 1, 2, 3 and make the falcon a little larger, something like that. So find a way to put all the birds on one page because
Okay.
that way you can track your own progress. So keeping your eyes on the reference image, I want you to hold the book in such a way that the distance traveled by your eyes is minimal. If you're
Okay.
looking at the screen, then hold your book upright. If you're looking at the reference image on say a secondary device, then keep it right next to it. So you can
Okay.
keep checking what's happening. So we are going to aim to draw most lines on paper while our eyes are on the reference image. So I'll start off with first making a small oval shape. Then there will be some kind of beak-like outcrop. a few lines for those hairs, and then the comb. I could make a big shape for the comb, and then I could trim it down to shape also. So I want you to see what technique you think might work well. In this sketching, I want you to focus on the hold of the pencil. So normally we draw or write like this, holding the pencil very close. But this time I want you to hold the pencil at a slightly further distance from your normal hold. That way you can see more of the illustration and will be able to make the lines more freely, large, long span lines. When you are placing a particular feature like the eye, for example, you can just make a light line, loose line, so that you can gauge if that is the right place. I had made my first eye over here, it was too big, then I just moved it behind. And with the context of the earlier circle, I know that this is a better proportion. If I erase that, danger is that I'm going to make the same mistake again, or the same line in the same spot again. As you fill in these details, even if they are sketchy details, they start giving you an idea of proportion. And there's a good chance that you will get most of your proportions accurately within this stage itself. Okay, so this is one technique. I'm going to further continue to sketch, make some more textures, and add depth to the picture also as we go along. But I wanted to immediately see the contrast. For the falcon, I'm going to make a slightly larger picture. So here I'm going to make short, straight lines as opposed to these rounded lines here. So I'm making blocks around shapes that I see. And these lines will crisscross each other. So imagine that we have a tool that can only make straight lines. Then with those straight lines, how will you create this bird? That's the exercise. So you will not make rounds or shapes which are ovular, but make smaller and smaller straightish lines till you are confident of your proportions. And then once you are confident, then you can start building the curves. And see how this looks like, almost like scaffolding of a building. That is how we want to keep it. So one or the other of both techniques can be utilized. In one technique, the drawing of the lines is relatively easier because going from, say, writing to drawing, we are more comfortable drawing short lines. But we'll end up drawing lines like this. And we don't want that. So if for the wing over here, I will draw a line that is more angular, but it covers up more of the space that I'm trying to create. Adjusting these lines also is a lot easier than adjusting curves. So if I've drawn this too straight and I want to make an adjustment, I can just make a short line next to it, straight line, and make that adjustment. and I can keep moving on. Now over here, I feel the wing has come a little lower. Just move this slightly higher, and I can make this adjustment. Now trying to make that over here, when first drawing curves itself is a challenge, can throw you off a little bit, and then you'll just be trying to move your book around to make the right curve and all. So it takes a little while to come to this for larger lines, but you can achieve the same very successfully in this technique using the lines. All right. Do you
Yeah.
want to get the shot now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to leave this for you to see, just to refer
Okay.
to, and then we will do texturing together.
Okay. It's visible in it's visible. Just click a photo.
Show me. You want me to have?
Yeah, I'll just click a photo. I think so it's not visible properly.
Yeah, that will help.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Now look at the okay, we can work with this. So now we can start. Do you want to make the other illustration first?
I think so we'll start with this and then I'll do that.
Yeah, not a problem. Okay, so for this one now, we can
Yeah.
start off with any one feature and start giving it detail. Now remember, the lines that you have drawn are only guidelines, even these, even this shape. So you should maintain a certain flexibility so that you can keep expanding or changing the lines, moving them here or there as we start developing this. So now first look at the basic shapes you've made. Is the shape of your the rooster's comb slightly slanted like that, or is it flat?
Pardon me, just could you say that again? There's some fireworks going on behind, so I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Now see see where the rooster's comb starts on the beak,
Yeah.
and then see how the beak ends at this point over here. And
Okay.
then the oval comes slightly higher to the right, and then the
Okay.
comb ends to the slightly higher end over there. Now just check on your illustration if you're getting that shape of the comb accurately.
Okay. Yes, I'll just put that little higher.
Okay,
Okay.
now with that, also
Mhm.
see how on the head itself you have a fold coming right in front of the eyes. There is some texture over
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
and look at this shape. So, this too goes a certain distance higher. Now, all these certain distances and all can be measured by other proportions in the face itself. So, how high does it go? You should know for sure. You can eyeball it. Also, you can see what direction it's going in. Is it going to 12 o'clock or slightly leaning to the right? Turn it, give it that jagged edge. And at every point, just see whether there are certain coordinates there that are matching. So is this V shape coming right on top of the roundness of the first fold? Okay. And is this as tall as this part over here in the back? You don't have to detail it yet, but that it just gives you the geographic location.
Okay.
All right. So that is how you proceed to start making the lines more firm. Now, the beak is a certain curve, and we have to maintain that curve. It just goes out a little bit from the distance of this comb here, and then turns up and goes inward, and then flattens and reaches in just about the same point as the fold over here. And then there's a V shape over here. And then this line comes straight down. Then you have a slight rounding of the beak, and then it goes inward. So see, the lines are very subtle.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to focus on. So you don't look at it as the a coxcomb as much as you look at it just for the line itself and how dark it is, what direction it's going, how far it is going. And then with respect to that line that you've made, what is the next line that you need to make? How far does that go? If you can eyeball it, then great. If you can't eyeball it, use the cues in the illustration itself. So here I have a little bit of a shadow. And then the eye comes up. Now, I can see already that the eye that I've drawn earlier looks very big and very far away. So I'm bringing it inward. And I'm checking that my eye ends somewhere where the comb over here also, somewhere like this. These are the folds, then the membrane around the eye. And it's not exactly round or oval. There seems to be like a inner eye also. And definitely this highlight. So there's a rectangular highlight and a round highlight over there. I find eyes fascinating. So I'll end up making my eyes very detailed. And from there, everything else then starts looking quite interesting and believable. So even if the rest of your proportions are really odd, if you get the eyes right, literally you could put a pair of eyes well illustrated on a refrigerator and it'll look like it is talking to you. Okay, now more adjustments. There's a interesting feather on its cheek. And it's come so much closer than I had made it. Then you have this weird kind of bottle shape here. And before I make
while making it, the start was quite different, and now adjusting things are like shifting towards the beak a little bit. But when it
correct,
was
yeah.
quite big, I had made it, I think so.
Yeah, exactly. And that is very normal because we are working on blank paper.
Yeah.
We have no idea. There is no usually there is no point of reference.
Yeah.
So this is something that also happens when you are flying. So I don't know
Mhm.
if you have any experience with, say, paragliding or something like that.
Mhm.
So when paragliding, they will often use something called an altimeter, which tells you how high you are.
Okay.
And the reason for that is pretty simple. When you're in the air, you don't
Mhm.
have any point of reference like the ground. The horizon is really far away. You
Yeah.
usually have hills around. The hills will have some valley or the other, but that does not tell you how high you might be.
Mhm.
So if you go above 1,000 meters or 1,000 feet, I think it's 1,000 meters,
Yeah.
there's a danger of hypothermia and
Okay.
also lack of oxygen, and you could
Mhm.
land up becoming delirious. And a lot
Okay.
of paragliding accidents have happened that way. So with
Mhm.
white paper, it's pretty much
Mhm.
the same thing. We have no reference points. So every line that we make
Mhm.
is a reference point in an unfamiliar territory. So I often think of this like if you are an explorer in a new land, how will
Mhm.
you plot that piece of land? Like surveyors do, you
Yeah.
first start putting some stake and say this is point zero, and from here now I'm going to mark every other territory, and eventually you will get measurements and distances from that one spot. Now the texture around the eye is really weird. So just move your pencil in this erratic manner, but very lightly. And in places where it is dark, we will create shadows in that same technique. Just move it in a scribble form. Some places you will have highlights, so do not draw any texture there. In some places you don't see the texture, so in those places we will just shade it very lightly. I think here also my shape can change a little bit. So the best strategy is to only draw what you see. Don't imagine anything, and you won't believe how difficult that is. Because we just don't even know what we are seeing.
Yeah, true.
So all these colored textures that we're going to make now, try to make your lines in the direction that you see that texture growing.
Mhm.
So instead of doing the easiest texture here, we will move our hand around a little bit, put it in maybe an uncomfortable position for a little bit to exercise it, to build the muscles that are required to draw these lines that can go in any shape. This also helps to confirm the direction of the lines you see in front of you. Now, the lines you make here, I want you to make them wispy. And this is great practice for wispy lines. So normally we make a line that has a start and a finish. But these lines do not make your sketch look smooth. It makes the sketch look a little amateurish. Sometimes you'll make a line which has got a very like a weird darkness to the end, something like that. So a good sketchy line is one which starts almost as if you don't know where it begins, then becomes dark and ends like that also. And we
Mhm.
to make all our lines like that because this line quality can help your sketch improve by 1,000%. So the exercise for the hands and the muscles of the hands is to make a line in the place where you need that line. Make it dark only in the place that it should be dark. And also to make it in this going from light to dark. It's not consistency. What can I say it is? Just the pressure of the line. So I used to
Yeah, the hand again wants to go on the same line of doing this thing. It's quite challenging for the hand.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And we can do a lot of it over here. So you might as well. This I call this the ab exercises for the hand.
True.
That's the only descriptor, and it's painful. You sometimes get it, sometimes don't get it, but you know one day it is going to work. So I studied some artists' final sketches, and I used to be very frustrated that no matter what I did, my sketches did not look like these, and I am a big fan of pencil sketching. To my
Okay.
mind, if you can master pencil sketching, all other mediums are pretty limbo timbo.
Okay.
So, how do you make your sketch look that? So, most of the time, it's like a multi-pronged attack.
Mm-hmm.
First, we don't know where to draw the line, so it begins from that. Second, when we do know how to draw it, often we don't draw the line looking pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And I could never figure out why my lines were not looking pretty. So there are artists like, oh God, I had his book right here. Um, I'll share his work. He makes such beautiful illustrations with just pencil. They are sometimes caricature-like, and I just love how his work is. Of course, I discovered him only recently, but I mean, I literally have studied the line quality of Leonardo da Vinci's work, and I thought I have to be able to make that kind of predictable line. So what I
You
figured
did it so
was that
pretty and see
sorry?
mine. See, man, your strokes are so pretty and mine.
Let me see. Yeah. No, it'll come. It'll come. So use it like a pendulum movement.
Okay. Yeah, just trying to do that fading of the lines.
Yeah. So just make sure that your hand is well planted on paper and only your fingers are moving.
As you start concentrating on the pressure and the movement, the line starts going somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
Direction
Okay.
changes.
How interesting.
Yeah, the direction changes of the line.
That's also true. It never occurred to me. All right, now we can complete the foam on top. Just give your hand a little bit of rest. And now over here, you again focus on the shape, slightly rounded at the top. And in some places it comes straight, then becomes a little puffy. And it's got a textured edge. See the direction of the triangle. And here again, we can practice this
Squiggly lines.
graphic. So make sure that you're not keeping your pencil completely flat, because then you'll get a very thick shade. We want the tip to touch.
Okay.
We want those lines to be visible. And then there is a subtle shade difference between the left side and the right side. And then there is some highlight towards the edges, so I'm not shading it all the way. Okay, do you want to try the falcon now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll leave this for you to see, and then let me know when you're at this stage, then we'll go ahead and finish that as well.
see this? Am I going in the right direction? If you can see.
Let me see. Yeah, I think so. Check whether line behind the beak is coming down. I think it's gone too far.
Too far. Okay.
It should be right underneath this side.
Okay.
So this is almost like a rectangle and then expands a little bit more, and then you have some expansion here and like that. Okay, once you're done, just like before, start with one feature that you can surely identify and make. In this case, I'm making this yellow membrane on his beak. And here's another tip you can use. When you're making the edges between certain features in birds and sometimes even animals, instead of drawing a line that is perpendicular to the edge, just draw these fence lines or feathered lines.
Okay.
That way, when you do come to painting it, you don't have to erase it. Like, for example, if I draw this line here, or if there's feathers over here, if I draw a line like this, versus if I were to just draw these fences like that. This helps me create texture and does not impede on the beauty of the picture itself. Otherwise, those lines can land up looking really ugly. Okay, I'm flattening the head now. I realize that the size of my head has become so large, it's making the bird look more like a vulture. Oh no, a bald eagle. And then making these lines, these feather lines, I'm filling up the space. As I fill up the space, I will be able to assess the right location of the eye. Now here there are some deep shadows, and it often helps to put in some deep shadows even before you do other details, because those shadows can really change how an image looks or how accurate you have made that part of the image. Now for the eye, I'm making a highlight. And though the whole eye looks really black to us, I'm going to make another halo around the highlight, shade the entire eye other than the highlight light gray first, and then I'm going to start shading the center of the eye, minus that halo a little deeper. So I will make this eye like it technically needs to be. And then I will add more depth around it. So the gray shading is very subtly different. So I get a little bit of a highlight at the base also. There is a little gray halo around the eye. There is a pupil, there's a lens. And this, for an illustration, this eye will look more attractive than just a plain black eye. A plain black eye will end up looking rather beady, and our illustration will suffer for it. And then the rest of the process is pretty much the same. Now, beyond this point, I want to show you another way of shading also, which is not going to be as detailed as the rooster that we made. Here, we are going to create much looser shading, not necessarily making the feathers, or not all of them certainly, but indicating the patches. So I'm just, I am shading this with the same kind of lines that I made for this, for the sketch. I might even go back and forth to create a dark space here as I feel the need. And then the rest I'm just going to indicate with lines. The line quality pretty much remains the same, but how we make this is different from the first one. Now I'm using a technique of hatching or cross hatching to create this shape. So let me show you how I'll do it. Suppose I have this ball and I want to show some dimension in this. I can draw lines like this to create one shadow. Then I will change the angle and draw lines in some part of that ball, and then keep doing that, changing the lines, the distance between the lines and the darkness of the lines. And automatically I start seeing some kind of dimension. So the same technique can be used here as well. Like, for example, I'm just making some lines over here like this, some lines like this, adding this over here. So they are, just by virtue of the fact that they are pencil lines and that they are lines, they will mimic feathers, but I'm not really making them look like feathers over here. So here I might make shapes like these, and then those, some feathers have got those lines, so I'll make that. I might just scribble a section over here to make it look like the dark feathers. So it's a distinctly different shading style from the first illustration we have done. And then here we have a beautiful shadow. I absolutely love this. This shadow, I don't even have to make it very refined. I'll show you how I'm going to do this. I'm just going to make it with some lines, and they could just be like vertical lines, very close to each other. And they will look like the shadow we want it to look like. Right? So here again, the beak, I'm just making lines. Here also, I can just make lines like that to fill this up. And a texture around here like so. So the reason I'm showing you this technique is to keep your, sometimes you need to keep your illustrations only sketchy. So you don't really need to spend too much time on making the details every time. But in order to develop your sketching skills, it helps to put in some detail in some form. And this is a quick and easy way of putting in detail. So here are the chest feathers. There is a little bit of shadow coming downward, so I'm adding shadow in this. Now with this technique, you can make these little feathers here also very simply. You just scribble a shape like that. It's like a little heart shape. Only thing is it curves, the shapes curve. So you have to maintain that angle. Maintain a little bit of the orientation, positioning of various heart shapes. And they're not really hearts, huh? So you don't go ahead and just make heart shapes. And you keep looking at the reference image. Just because you've got one shape doesn't mean that it's the same shape repeating. So at any point in time, you should not lose sight of your reference image. How's it looking? One second, let me replace. Okay. All right. A lot more shading required. Don't do shading on this wing. Try and make the shading around the head and the eye. Now,
Okay.
see the peak you have drawn, I think, well. But can you see how the face actually starts from just above the membrane that you've made? I think your
Yeah.
face starts behind. So extend the line. It's slightly flat, just comes a little ahead
Okay.
and joins the top.
Yeah, something funny is I was thinking it's looking a little funny because I think so the beak also I made it a little big, a little long.
Hmm.
It should be a little more stubbier and head also. I was feeling
So
something was off. Yeah.
yeah, so make that adjustment.
Yeah.
Now when you look at the reference image and you look at your illustration, you have to only ask for what size have I made something? Have I made it in the right place?
Okay.
Is the line going in the right direction? We are it's If I were to change this, for example, what are the changes that I can make? It's after all just a line, right?
Yeah.
So is my line going out too much?
Mhm.
So can I bring it inward? That is a
Mhm.
change. Is it too long? Shall I make it short? Or is it too short? Shall I make it long? Where is the next line with respect to that? Is it going straight? Is it going horizontal? And after you've made the line, it will be much easier for you to also change the line.
Mhm.
So ask these very simple questions and you will have the answer in those many terms.
Okay.
So it's not like a mystery that I don't know what has gone wrong. So when I look at your illustration and you look at your illustration, you may think that I will see something differently.
Mhm.
But all I see is only these things. My dialogue with the lines that you've drawn is like a quick response.
Okay.
Then I know this line needs to be adjusted, that line needs to be adjusted. But I'm not going to do any magic. It's not like I have
Mhm.
a magic potion, right?
True,
So
true, true.
my adjustment is going to be something that even you can do. You just
Okay.
need to know what questions to ask. So give it a shot, make
Okay.
those adjustments. Only after you make the adjusted line, if you want, the original line, if it's very confusing, then you can erase it. Otherwise,
Mhm.
let that be like how I have let most of my lines. We have not even touched the eraser on this page.
Yeah.
So keep that optional.
Okay. I think so later on it will come. You see?
Let me see. Okay, okay. You want to try one more bird?
Yeah.
Okay. So now this time you try it first. I'll
Okay.
wait for about 5 minutes and then
Yeah.
I'll start drawing.
Okay. Mm, is it visible?
No, it's not visible. Could
No?
you send a picture on the
Yeah.
group? That was very quick also. 4 minutes.
I've just done the outline. Just a
Okay,
rough outline, nothing else.
okay.
Yeah. Just some.
Okay, make some more lines in this.
Like both lines.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now even I'll begin. This photo, I think, is so heavily retouched, it almost looks fake.
True.
I had to check 2, 3 times to see if this is even real. Now, the eyes over here, just notice, they look circular,
Yeah,
aren't. See, the top of the eye is a little flat,
flat.
and the left eye is bulging a little towards the left
Mhm.
and has a dark, narrow oval end towards the right. It
Mhm.
is also there on the right eye, but it's not visible.
Hidden, yeah, it's hidden.
Yeah. And the center of the eye is different in the right eye. So you need to be very careful about these things
Okay.
because this will show us that a little bit of the face is curved, just a
Mhm.
little bit.
It's a little, yeah, it's on an angle.
So it may not be very apparent in elsewhere, but these are the cues, and it's only the brain that understands these. Then, though the eyes are yellow, there's a gentle shadow from the top and on the inside of the eyes. Now, here's something you can do for the illustration of the beak. I know this will sound like the most torturous thing to do, but you can shade in the negative space.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you the extreme form of this, where you draw the outer edges of the feathers.
Okay.
And then you shade in between those spaces. This is very painful for most people, but I absolutely delight in it
Okay.
because it can really make the illustration look spectacular. Just takes a little bit of patience to do that.
Okay.
I use a clutch pencil for that.
Okay.
That way I can reach in and draw,
It's sharper, yeah.
yeah, thinner spaces much better.
Okay. I think for that I'll need to do another drawing because I started a little bit of the beak this way.
Okay,
But
okay.
you can see this?
1 second. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. It's
Okay.
okay to start like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I'll try that out once. Yeah.
And here you will see that there are 2, 3 different highlights. So
Yeah.
a highlight doesn't always have to be just a shine. Sometimes it can be slightly grayish also.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can be just the absence of any color completely.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to take a call depending upon the neighborhood, what color you see and what you should make as a highlight. And both are valid.
Mm-hmm.
So even a duller highlight still remains a highlight.
And for the feathers below the beak, how should I draw that? Like,
Those
what should
I
I do?
have in fact just made them like that. Just
Okay, just
they're such a weird shape. That is what makes me think that this is probably a digital illustration. They're
yeah.
so poorly placed. They don't even look like feathers. But maybe that is how the feathers are. What do I know?
I don't know. Yeah.
And the same thing we do even over here. You can leave these spots white and color in the negative space around it.
Yeah, for that I did the negative did the white circles and then colored it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that for this.
And again, over there also, when you come towards the feathers on top of the eye, don't just bring the line inward into the feather like that. So you maintain a fuzzy outline over there. Do you think you can make the peacock by yourself now, Olivia?
Yeah, I'll try that at home. It's like a homework. You see?
Yeah, let me see it. Huh. Do you think that it's getting better now?
Yeah, it's getting better. Means after seeing it, I can figure out, okay, this should be done here, this should be done here. A
Yeah,
little bit, I can figure it out. The shapes, at least I can see the shapes. Before, like when we started the rooster, I couldn't see the shapes also. Key.
right.
Where it'll go, what it should be done. Now at least I have a confidence that let's make the shape and then figure out what should be done ahead. So
Correct.
that's there.
Yeah, so
Um,
this is how it works. So the improving on already done works much better with things like art, because you can see it and making corrections in that is so easy. So
easy.
the
Yeah.
point is that you have to just do that first bit, and then tomorrow when you see it again, you will be able to see even more accurately what you can change. So
Okay.
over time,
Yeah.
this gap between what you see today and draw today versus what is the real image that you should be seeing and how you should be drawn, there's a
Yeah.
gap, right? So
Yeah.
that starts reducing, and
Yeah.
it happens almost like a back and forth thing, that you
Okay.
see a certain thing, you draw it, then you see it again, and then you realize that it's something else, and you move closer to how you should be.
Okay.
And the process of drawing also strengthens your hand so much that you
Mhm.
move closer to
Okay.
how you should be drawing. So it just
Okay.
starts going closer and closer like that.
Yeah. It's more about practicing every time.
Yeah, but
This
it also helps to know why you're practicing that.
yeah, like I started the falcon, but the falcon wasn't looking like a falcon that time. But now if I see it, I said, yeah, okay, quite a lot of improvement is there. I need to make, but still I can recognize it as a falcon now. Rather than the place I started, yeah, with. Yeah,
Good.
it's okay.
Very nice. Chalo,
Yeah.
nice done.
Okay.
Okay, so now next week, do you think it might be better to do this class around 7 or so? Because every time I think Ashwita comes home really late. Would that
Okay.
time suit you?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay, so I will
7
just
to
check
8:30.
7 to 8:30. So, or
If you
maybe
could do it by
6:30.
6:30, because I
Yeah,
need to feed my son by 8 o'clock. So if it
yeah,
goes longer, I'll need to go by 8 o'clock. That's why.
right. So I'll ask her
6:30.
if instead of
Yeah.
5, then 6:30 is a better time, then we can just keep it at 6:30. So she
Yeah.
doesn't have to rush to try to make it.
Yeah. 6:30 will be fine with me.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, chalo,
Okay.
great. See you then next
Bye.
week.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye.